The world loves spice. The exotic ingredients in so many of our favourite dishes have revolutionised the way we eat. But the search for these amazing tastes now found in every kitchen cupboard changed the course of history. This is a journey to find out how spices shaped our modern world. I'm going to be visiting some of their exotic birthplaces and travelling the globe to discover just how these spices made it to our tables. I'll be meeting the people whose lives depend on them and following the trail of the first spice explorers.
Empires built and destroyed, immense fortunes made, and countless lives lost during one of the most exciting periods of discovery in the history of the Western world, and all in the name of spice.
Like most people, I have a cupboard full of spices, dried seeds and bark that we all think of as commonplace. But back in the 15th century, two spices in particular led the Europeans to travel beyond the known world. I followed them to India looking for pepper before heading to Sri Lanka to find cinnamon. This is known as the Spice Coast, 300 miles of shoreline with lush tropical forests and a labyrinth of waterways. And more often than not, hot weather and blue skies. But this is monsoon season.
Our story begins with a spice that every single one of us will have in our cupboards or on our tables. It's so ordinary and everyday that we utterly take it for granted, and it's this: black pepper. But this was once so valuable it was known as black gold, and in medieval times, if you stole a handful of peppercorns like this, it was as lucrative as doing a successful bank raid today. Serving black pepper to your guests was undeniable proof of your wealth and power. This was once the world's most sought-after spice, and it comes from here, Kerala, in southern India.
Our love affair with pepper dates back to the Romans. They couldn't get enough of the stuff. And it wasn't just roads and plumbing they brought to Europe. They left us with a taste for what they called piper negrum. But what do we really know about this spice? To find out, I'm travelling high into the hills of Idukki, one of Kerala's premier pepper growing areas. This is sacred and protected land, home to an ancient tribal people. The Manan have been cultivating pepper for centuries.
It's a really effective use of land, actually, isn't it?
Karan Bakshi, a former chef, understands this spice and now works with the tribe, growing and selling it.
Now I'm going to just have a closer look at what's going on here. I can't believe these are the ladders.
Yeah, these are the bamboo poles they use to climb up.
I mean,
a very traditional practice.
It is very traditional, but it looks terrifying.
The wine is not that strong.
Right,
so
of course.
It creates a very good balance.
So you don't want a great heavy
yes.
thing up above it. I mean, you make it look very easy and very comfortable. Yes. Can I have a go? So let's see. Right, and then I'm. It's quite wobbly. So how? Oh my goodness, I'm not sure this is a good idea. So you. It's twisting. So pepper is basically a creeper, isn't
Yes,
it?
it's a creeper and it's attached to a tree called the coral tree. Mm-hmm. And these are the berries, pepper berries.
So you stand up and then you pluck.
This
Okay.
is how it's plucked.
So you pluck the whole thing and you
Yes,
put it
put
in
it
your
back in your
sarong
bag,
like that.
yeah.
I'm going to come down. Whew. I'm going to leave you to be the expert. Thank you very much. Please carry on. So pepper is probably the most familiar spice to us.
Yes.
You know, it's good old black
Yes.
pepper. Is white pepper something quite different?
It's a very common question which people ask us. They think that white pepper comes from a different tree,
Yeah.
different creeper, but it's not. The white pepper, the black pepper and the green pepper come from the same vine. What happens with black pepper, you're drying it in the sun and it's holding up all the flavors and it becomes roasted black color. But what happens with white pepper is you soak them in water to remove the outer skin, the green skin.
Okay.
And that's what makes it much more milder and it's white in color and of course not that pungent.
Not that
Yeah.
pungent. So
Yeah.
that dried would become a black peppercorn.
Absolutely, yes.
That soaked would become a white peppercorn.
White pepper.
But it's all the same thing.
It's all the same thing.
Pepper has been harvested like this in India for thousands of years, and for centuries, the people who sold it to the rest of the world were Arab traders. They knew where to find it, and they weren't about to let anyone else in on the secret. Back in the 15th century, Europeans had no idea how pepper was produced, and to be honest, neither do I.
So do you just whoosh, like that?
No.
No? No way. You trample it?
Yes,
Can I try?
Yeah.
Okay, so like this?
Yeah.
It's like a little pepper dance. What do you think, girls? Good? What's extraordinary when you're doing this, as badly as I clearly am, is that you get the smell of pepper coming up from your feet. Go on, you do it.
This is how it should be done.
So next time you're grinding peppercorns onto your scrambled eggs of a morning, you can remember how those peppercorns started life. Look at that. One little dance and whole fistfuls of pepper.
So, pick the berries, dance on them, and leave them out in the sun for 3 days, and hey presto, you've got the black peppercorns we know and love. It really is as simple as that. But for centuries in the West, pepper was a luxury item and came with an air of mystique. The European map of the world still had plenty of blank spaces, and pepper's unknown origins gave rise to all sorts of fantastic stories.
One such tale was that pepper forests were guarded by highly venomous flying serpents. Once the berries were ripe, people would come along and set fire to the forests, driving away the snakes and engulfing the plants in flames. Those flames would turn the berries black and give them their fiery taste. The berries then had to be harvested at breakneck speed before furious serpents returned to wreak their revenge.
These tall tales suited the Arab traders who were making a fortune while protecting their source. The spice was sent on a marathon journey, travelling from here to the tables of the rich in the West. And along the way were plenty of merchants charging a hefty markup. Today in Kerala, there are still plenty of spice traders doing very nicely out of pepper.
How much for 100 grams of black pepper?
50 rupees, 50.
50 rupees.
Only 50.
Should I bargain? Should I be saying
bargain,
no?
bargain, fixed
40.
price.
40.
No, bargain, no, fixed price.
No, I say 40.
Not me.
Okay, you're going to win this one. Thank you very much. Singing spicy. Do you think he only sings when he's making money? Sir, it has been a pleasure doing... Dance? Well, you have to sing. Okay, wait.
Pepper may have been expensive, but there was no shortage of people willing to pay the price. In the 15th century, these little dried berries not only spiced up the food of the rich, they were also believed to be a cure for the plague, the Black Death, ravaging Europe. The Arabs had total control of the pepper trade and the vast income it produced. But that was all about to change. On the 8th of July, 1497, Portugal sent their finest navigator, Vasco da Gama, in search of pepper. Da Gama was 37 years old and the son of a nobleman with a reputation for steely determination. He was going to need it. Da Gama's flotilla headed for the coast of Africa. Using the monsoon winds to propel them around the Cape of Good Hope and into the Indian Ocean. Finally, in May of 1498, Da Gama's crew landed on the Malabar coast, making them the first Europeans to find the sea route to India.
It's reported that Da Gama's little fleet landed here, and legend has it that Da Gama and his men marched up the beach shouting, "For Christ and spices!" Although more likely, some poor soul was sent ahead, and only when he came back in one piece did Da Gama go ashore, although obviously that version isn't quite so good for posterity. But whatever the truth, there is no denying the fact that the Portuguese had hit the jackpot. They had landed here in Kerala, the birthplace of pepper. When Da Gama first arrived on India's Malabar coast, he expected to find a few godless savages who would happily trade their black gold for a few worthless European fripperies. But what he was actually met by was a cosmopolitan melting pot of enormous wealth and sophistication.
This is Cochin, Spice City Central. And for centuries, traders came here from far and wide in search of pepper. Muslims, Jews, Arabs and Chinese. In the 1400s, this was a boom town. Pepper was to Cochin what oil is to the Gulf states today. In trading halls throughout Cochin, spice deals are going on every day. The spice on sale today is ginger. What's fascinating is how these deals are being conducted in silence and in secret.
So what you're doing is you are trying to agree a price, and you do it in secret.
In secret.
Under here. Can you show me the hand signals?
He is asking 200.
200 is two fingers. Yeah.
Then you are
And then I say two.
6.
6.
5
is
or
that.
5 plus 1.
5 plus 1, so that.
6. 6.
That's incredibly complicated. 7 is this. 8 is that one.
2 times.
2 times.
2 times. 4 and 4.
These hand signals evolved over centuries from the need to have a common language among traders from all over the world.
Yeah.
6.
6. Ah.
5.
How do you know
7.
that's not 10 though? It's the same as
7.
10.
This one.
I think
this
that
one.
would be a very bad
This one
trader.
8.
That's 8.
208.
208.
In theory, all this secrecy means a better deal for the seller. It's like a game of poker. And the buyers are trying to call the seller's bluff. But I'm not fooling anyone.
So now we have agreed the deal. Do you shake hands under here? How do you, when you say
No.
I agree?
I agree. Up.
That goes up, and the deal is finished.
I will say you take it.
In the Middle Ages, pepper was so valuable that to prevent theft, workers handling the spice were forbidden from wearing trousers with cuffs or pockets. And when coins were scarce, pepper was used as currency, hence the term peppercorn rent. Today, pepper is the only spice that's quoted on the stock market.
Everything's done in secret under this towel. And these guys have just walked in. They made an offer to the seller who just... So clearly, there are some big deals going on. But it's just an amazing way of selling stuff. And this scene could be 1,000 years ago, apart from the shiny sandals and the mobile phones, of course.
Da Gama may have found an established business community in Cochin, but the sea route opened up by the Portuguese introduced new European traders to the Indian pepper market. And today, as then, it's all about supply and demand.
Do you sell pepper?
Yes, short.
Pepper's short. Why?
So less crop. So
Crop is down. Really?
less crop. Here also less crops.
This is the home of pepper.
Demand is good.
Demand is high, but
International crop is less. International Indonesia.
But why is there a shortage of the spice here in India? To find out, I need to head north to the traditional heartland of pepper production in Kerala, Wayanad, a place the traders of Da Gama's time knew as the Pepper Mountains. This 400-acre pepper plantation has been run by Victor Day for the last 17 years. There should be a fabulous spread here of vines and berries, but that's far from the case.
this is unexpected. I was expecting to see lushness and plants everywhere, and this looks like a scene of devastation.
It is. Every single tree that you see here had pepper growing up it, as you can see.
So that was a pepper vine.
Pepper vine, yeah. It's all wilt.
Wilt.
Yeah. It's a fungal attack which has hit the pepper. Not only mine, but the entire district.
But I thought the Wayanad was the absolute epitome of pepper production in the whole of Kerala.
Exactly. And that's what made Wayanad famous. And pepper was a natural crop here. It just took off. You planted the slips, and the next thing you know, 3 years later, you've got a luxuriant pepper vine.
And how much pepper did you produce on the whole estate?
25 tons.
25 tons.
25 tons, yes.
And now?
And now, with difficulty, a ton, little over a ton last year.
That explains then, because I met these guys in Cochin who said, you know, people desperately want pepper. The pepper market is really strong. Apparently local demand is going up as well, but they simply can't get it. And I couldn't understand it. I thought this is the home of pepper.
It's all because of the wilt.
So you've lost an enormous amount.
Huge amount, huge amount. It is definitely spreading, without doubt. Oh, this is a beautiful area at one time. Yeah. It's sad when you see it like this.
Isn't it?
The spice that drew the world to India's shores and grew in abundance all over this landscape is now under threat. At risk are the livelihoods of the tribespeople whose small pepper farms are scattered in the mountains. It's harvest time in Kerala. And festivals like this, deep in the heart of Wayanad, are rooted in traditions that are thousands of years old. These isolated communities depend on pepper, and the disease that has ravaged the crop has touched the lives of everyone here. And none more so than local farmer Janesh Joseph. Janesh and his brother Suresh were raised on this farm where their father grew pepper. When the plants were ravaged by the disease, tragedy struck.
So the pepper crop failed.
The pepper is destroyed due to the disease.
Everything on the farm
Everything on the farm
destroyed.
destroyed. We could not get money from any other crops.
Your entire family income disappeared.
Disappear. That is the main problem. Father was disappointed and he decided to die. He climbed a tree and he hanged the tree. Suicide due to the loss of pepper.
In the last 5 years, there have been as many as 200 suicides among pepper farmers. But the brothers refused to give up. They left their studies to help rescue the farm and repay the debts their father left behind. And by introducing soil nutrients and a new strain of plant, they're growing pepper on their farm once again. To celebrate the harvest, the twins have invited me to a family meal prepared by their mother, Eliama.
Smells delicious.
And naturally, pepper is very much on the menu.
Pepper. From here, from your farm. Okay. Look at this.
Pickles.
Pickle. It's a pickle.
Pepper pickles.
So these are pickle made out of the pepper berries. How amazing. Oh, this looks delicious. I think it might be potato. Yam. It's yam. It's not potato, it's yam. Okay. This one. So you're putting pepper in here. Wow, pepper in everything. The lovely thing that I'm beginning to discover about Indian cooking is that you never have to do anything on your own. You have a whole team. Well, this is our pepper feast. Peppered yams, peppered beef, peppered beetroot, pepper pickle, and pepper soup. Don't laugh at me. You try saying pepper pickle at this time of day. And this is a...
Sorry.
Girls. Okay, small. Oh, perfect. Okay, delicious. What was so wonderful about this food is the taste of the pepper is incredibly strong. You absolutely know that you're eating a pepper-based dish. And the pepper tastes completely different from the pepper we have at home, maybe because it literally is grown on the doorstep. It's delicious, Eliama. Thank you. Delicious. Let's try some.
But in India, pepper isn't just used for seasoning food. It's used for something even more fundamental. For over 5,000 years, Indians have been turning to a traditional system of medicine to treat their ailments. It's called Ayurveda, and it means science of life. It originated here in Kerala, and pepper is one of its main ingredients. Dr. Mary Smitter is a renowned practitioner of this ancient medicine.
My goodness, this is like a treasure trove. It's amazing. It's like a sort of wizard's workshop.
Yeah.
So everything you use in Ayurvedic medicine, all these wonderful barks and seeds, it's all natural. You use no chemicals at all.
Yeah, it's completely natural. Actually, plants have the energy from nature. Plants are deep-rooted in nature. So we are using that energy for our body. We are trying to blend the energy of nature and trying to bring about an equilibrium in a human body.
Ayurveda comes from Kerala. Pepper, as I now have discovered,
That's true.
also comes from Kerala. So what would you in Ayurvedic medicine use pepper for?
Pepper is a decongestant. It's a very good decongestant. It can be used in all the respiratory ailments.
I mean, even asthma, would it help with that?
Definitely, this can help, you know. This can bring down cholesterol levels, and it's a powerful antibacterial and antiviral medicine.
So this little berry has not just made a lot of people very, very rich over the years, it's made a lot of people very healthy.
That's true.
It is a little wonderberry. So I wonder, what could it do for me?
I can detect a little bit of fatigue, probably.
Fatigue?
Yeah.
Is there anything in Ayurvedic medicine that can give me a bit of a kind of energy boost?
Well, there is this wonder drug, that is the long pepper.
Long pepper?
Yeah,
Where is it?
Piper longum.
Wow.
Here.
Look at that. Can I taste it?
Yeah, of course you can taste.
Is it going to blow my head off?
Let's see.
Back in medieval Europe, this close relative to black pepper was every bit as popular. Today, though, it's most commonly used as an Ayurvedic cure.
It sort of explodes. It's really on the tip of your tongue, the taste, isn't it?
I'll put 6 grams of powder in 1 glass of milk.
My tongue is on fire.
Pepper flavours the cuisine, the economy, the medicine, and the traditions of this part of India, an offering worthy of the gods themselves. On the banks of the Pampa River in central Kerala, pepper is being offered to honour the local Hindu deity. These men, many of them local farmers, are about to take to the water in the most important contest of a harvest festival that lasts 10 whole days. It's known as Onam. This team from Malappuram are hot favourites to win. And since I'm hitching a lift upriver with their supporters, I've decided to adopt them as my team.
This is the start of the most traditional boat race in all of India. It's kind of intrinsic to the Onam festival, one of the most important parts.
The spectacular snake boat race is a 2,000-year-old event featuring the largest teams of any sport in the world.
And these incredible-looking boats have got 100 oarsmen apiece, and each boat represents a local village.
40 villages, many located in pepper country, are taking part.
What a spectacle!
The Malappuram team have been victorious for the last 2 years, and I'm hoping they'll make it a hat-trick.
Good luck, guys! Come on, guys! Oh, it's going to be neck and neck, this one. 3 boats together, and there's hardly a whisker in it. Go on! Oh, they're paddling their hearts out. Come on! Go, guys! Woohoo!
It was a close-run thing, but my boys didn't get their hat-trick. They couldn't have tried harder.
And they look absolutely exhausted.
I think it might be time for a traditional pick-me-up, Ayurvedic style.
Namaskar. Can I have some chai? Chai. Tea for me, please. I have this spice. You know this?
Tripoli.
Gupri. Tripoli. In English, long pepper. And an Ayurvedic doctor told me it's very good for lots of energy. It makes you bounce. Ayurvedic. So can I use this and pound it up? Grind, exactly. Is that okay? Okay. It's quite hard, isn't it? Let me try. It's a woman who knows how to grind. It will make you very strong.
Yes.
Good? Do you feel very...
Yes.
Okay, that's enough. A little bit of pepper in. Okay, what do you think? Good? It's weird. You can't really taste the pepper. But Suda likes it. Okay. So, despite winning all their heats decisively, and it was an incredibly exciting competition, sadly, my adopted team didn't win. They came second. So they're a fairly dejected lot of boys today. So I know what's going to pep them up and give them strength to win next year's race. Good morning. Good morning. I'm sorry you didn't win, but you were magnificent. We thought you were great. So try this. It'll give you energy after all your work.
The climax of the 10-day Onam festival is a procession of all the boats to the main temple. And it certainly looks as if my team may have benefited from the pepper pick-me-up. Women are not allowed in the boats, so I'm making my way by foot to meet up with the team at the temple, where everyone is giving thanks for the harvest to the all-bestowing god, Parthasati. And despite their earlier disappointment, my team's spirits seem high. By the turn of the 16th century, the Portuguese were at the forefront of the spice race. And with Western appetites for exotic tastes running high, what they couldn't obtain through trade, they took by force. In the name of pepper, the Portuguese laid siege to the spice coast of India.
Eight years after Da Gama first landed in Kerala, the Portuguese had established a fairly firm foothold here. They built this fort and in it put their first viceroy in India. Then, pretty confident that they had control over the pepper trade, their quest for spices turned south.
They set forth in search of another rare taste highly desired amongst the rich in 16th century Europe. A spice for which they were prepared to pay exorbitant prices. Cinnamon. Even rarer and more expensive than pepper, its source was a mystery. The Portuguese were constantly raiding Arab ships along the Indian coast and often found cinnamon among the cargo. They suspected the source for the spice was nearby, but the ocean beyond Kerala was, as far as the Portuguese were concerned, uncharted waters. But in 1506, Portuguese sailors pursuing an Arab merchant ship found themselves adrift in rough seas in the Indian Ocean and sought shelter on an unfamiliar coast.
The Portuguese landed here on the shores of Sri Lanka, or Ceylon as it was then known, little realising that the bad weather had brought them to exactly the place they were looking for. Now, as was customary in those days, shall I give you a hand? They asked the locals to take them to their king. Now, the Portuguese had pitched up in the kingdom of Cochin, not a very big kingdom, and the locals wanted to impress these exotic foreigners. So, instead of taking them the direct route to the king, which only would have taken a couple of hours and given the impression that the kingdom was tiny, they took them on a circuitous route that took about 3 days. And the phrase, taking the Portuguese to Cochin, has now entered local parlance, and it's kind of the Sri Lankan equivalent of being led on a wild goose chase.
Back then, Cochin was one of several kingdoms that made up the exotic island of Ceylon. The rival rulers were constantly at each other's throats, a situation that the Portuguese were able to exploit in their attempts to control the cinnamon trade. This is the coastal town of Gaul, and I haven't had to look far to find the spice that was once so coveted.
Cinnamon. From Sri Lanka?
Yes, from Sri Lanka. Number 1 quality cinnamon in Sri Lanka.
Number 1 quality. Good morning.
But to see where cinnamon actually grows, I need to head into the dense jungles of nearby Hikkaduwa. This is cinnamon country, and I'm here to meet local farmer Premal Wickravanasinghe.
Are you Premal?
How are you?
Very well. What a beautiful, beautiful place.
You're welcome.
It's amazing. It's like a sort of mythical jungle. Okay.
This farm has been in Premal's family for more than 3 generations. He took it over 20 years ago and transformed it into an organic farm producing high-quality cinnamon.
I will show you cinnamon.
Well, that would be wonderful because I have no idea how the cinnamon that we see in those funny little sticks in a jar gets from a real living plant. I can't even imagine what the plant looks like.
Yeah. This is cinnamon.
This is
These are the
cinnamon
cinnamon plants. This is organic cinnamon. Now they are harvesting.
I'm going to try and get close without getting my arm chopped off. But does it? It doesn't smell now. Do the leaves smell of cinnamon?
You can smell this. Just you can bite and you can taste it.
Oh yeah, it's an incredible taste.
And this is called Cinnamomum silenicum.
Of course. Sri Lankan cinnamon.
Yeah.
It's the bark of these branches that cinnamon is made from.
I'm looking at these guys doing all this work. Can I have a go?
Yeah. Cut like this towards the bush.
Okay.
The trick to harvesting is to cut with strength and accuracy. So all I have to do is make 2 well-aimed incisions.
Oh, I'm making a right mess.
It's really hard.
Really hard.
Well, that's the theory.
I think a career in forestry doesn't wait. Don't laugh at me, I'm trying. There. Okay.
It's easier to hold it like this, no?
Okay. And then cut down.
Yeah, that's right.
20 years practice, I reckon I could be quite good at this.
It's hard to believe that from this ordinary-looking branch comes a spice adored since ancient times. Back then, they may have loved it, but like me, they had no idea of the origins of cinnamon. 5th century BC historian Herodotus came up with his own colourful version of the cinnamon story.
Do you know the Herodotus story?
No.
You don't?
No.
He said that cinnamon was gathered from the nests of birds, and there were these giant birds who would make nests out of cinnamon sticks, but their nests were right up on inaccessible cliffs, so you couldn't get to them. So the way that the cinnamon had to be gathered was that the people of the villages where these nests were built would kill an animal and leave huge chunks of meat underneath the nests. The birds would come down, gather up the meat, take it up to their nests. The meat was so heavy, the nests would collapse. There were your cinnamon sticks. What a palaver! Mind you, it might have been easier than me cutting it.
The myth may be far-fetched, but it seems that what I'm witnessing here can't have changed too much since the time of Herodotus. The skills of the cinnamon peelers have been passed down from generation to generation and go back thousands of years. The first part of the process is to strip the outer bark of the branch to reveal the golden inner bark, which is the cinnamon.
It's like peeling a big carrot or something.
That's right.
And you have to remove every little bit, but really finely, so you don't dig into the stuff underneath.
No.
This rubbing process that he's doing now, that's loosening this bark.
Next comes the most intricate operation, making a series of incisions to separate the cinnamon from the branch. The workers here are paid by how much cinnamon they cut. So it pays to be fast and skillful, like baby Nona, one of the most experienced of Primal's workers.
You do that very, very expertly. Have you been doing this for a very long time? Could you show me how you do the peeling? Okay. And then you put this through your toe, yeah? Okay. And go down like that. Oh, it's sort of like skinning something alive. And then down again. Oh, I'm making a terrible mess. I'm driving you mad, aren't I? You can't believe how slow I am. If I have no finger left, I'm blaming you. I can deal with 9. Is that what you're saying? Okay. It's okay.
I've managed to keep hold of all my fingers, but I've made a right mess of the cinnamon. There's clearly a knack to this that might just take more than a day for me to master. My cinnamon tutor, baby Nona Dayananda, belongs to a caste of people, the Salagama, who've been the enduring guardians of cinnamon throughout all the chapters of Sri Lanka's colonial past. Exploiting their skills was crucial to Portugal's plan to monopolise the spice trade here.
You are from a special caste of people that are totally connected with cinnamon. Can you tell me a little bit about the Salagama?
Portuguese ලන්දේසි මේ ලංකාවට පැමිණියට පස්සේ තමයි ඔය කුරුඳු පෘතුගීසි කාරින් දැකලා ඒගොල්ලෝ කැලෑවල ගිහින් ඒව කාලා බලලා මේ කුරුඳුයි කියන තේරුම අරගෙන ඒව ඊට පස්සේ ලන්දේසි ආවට පස්සේ විශාල වශයෙන් මවල වතු ක්‍රමයට ඒ දේශීය නිෂ්පාදනය කරන ගොඩක් හද ගැසලා තියෙනවා. ඊට පස්සේ නීතියක් දාලා තියෙනවා මේ ගහක්වත් තලාගම මිනිස්සු තමයි පුරුදු කරගෙන තියෙන්නේ. තලීමට. ඒ අය අර වෙන කවුරුවත් ගහක්වත් කැපුවොත් මරණීය දඬුවම් නියම කරනවා.
It was the Salagama's skills with cinnamon that saved them, even if it meant they lived as virtual slaves. Those skills include the final part of the process, the building of the cinnamon quills.
Okay, baby Nuna's going to show me how to make a quill, aren't you? She's looking a little doubtful. I don't think she has much faith in me after the peeling episode, but let's try. Okay, so these are the bits I peeled.
මෙහෙම පස්සෙන් පස්සට දාන්න ඕන.
Okay.
මෙතන මේ ගානට වඩා මෙතන මීළඟ කෑල්ල පස්සට දැම්මා.
So this becomes like the outer casing, and everything gets packed beautifully into it. So then you carry on.
මේ ටික දිගට තියන්න දැන් ලෙල්ල. මේක දැම්මහම ශක්තිමත්ව හිටින්න.
Okay, okay. So you really pack it in, yeah?
ඔව්. පළල් වෙනකොට කියලා දෙන්න කෙනෙක් නෑ නේද මම මෙහෙම කියලා දෙන්න.
You did make it look really easy, and it really isn't. So there's a lot more to a cinnamon stick than meets the eye. And that will sit drying, but every night you'll roll it a bit, won't you? So that then tightens it up. And that will happen for 2 weeks, and you will finally get your beautiful regulation length cinnamon stick. That's a lot of work. You're amazing. You know you're amazing.
Cinnamon requires a lot more effort and skill to prepare than pepper. It is literally a handmade product. But the knowledge possessed by people like Baby Nona is gradually dying out.
So you really pack it in, yeah? And what about today? I mean, you are still working in cinnamon. You said that your father taught you how to be a cinnamon peeler. Are you worried that other young Salagama, like your daughter and your son, will not go into the cinnamon industry?
Anything තාක්ෂණයන්තින් හැම දෙයකම තියෙනවනේ දැන් යන්ත්‍රෝපකරණ. මේවට මේ කුරුඳු දෙලීමට විතරක් යන්ත්‍රෝපකරණ නිපදවන්න දැන්. පිරිමි අය කපන අපි ගෑනු අදිනවා. ඉතින් අපිට පුළුවන් හැටි අපි සූරල දීලා තල්නවා. ගොඩක් මහන්සි වෙන්න ඕන. මහන්සිය තරමට තමයි Tamanට මේ නිෂ්පාදනය තමන්ගේ මිල මුදල් ලබා ගන්න නිෂ්පාදනය කරගන්න පුළුවන්. ඉතින් අර රැත් නිදි මරන්න ඕනනේ. අනේ ඒ නිසාවෙන් ඉස්සරහා පරපුර කම්මැලි.
So if I practice a little bit more, shall I come and work with you?
The Portuguese weren't just after Sri Lankan spices, they'd also come to claim souls for Christ. They were determined that if the cinnamon trade was to be theirs, they would have to convert as well as conquer. But in some parts of the country, they met determined resistance. I'm heading inland and up to the hills of Kandy for a unique festival that celebrates an important victory over the Portuguese.
This is amazing. I can't imagine that there could be any more people. It's like the whole of Kandy have piled out onto the streets. Okay, ready? Yes! Thank you very much. Pleasure. Have a lovely day. It's so exciting. Look at everybody's faces.
This festival, known as Perahara, not only celebrates the Buddhist faith, but also the defiance shown by the local people to the foreign cinnamon hunters.
When the Portuguese realised that this little island was home to their precious cinnamon, of course they wanted to take over the whole place. And where they met the most resistance was here, the kingdom of Kandy.
Those 16th century rebels harassed and attacked the Portuguese everywhere they tried to establish cinnamon plantations.
Now, Kandy is home to the holiest of holy sites if you're a Buddhist, the Temple of the Tooth, wherein lies one of Buddha's teeth. So the Portuguese thought, if we steal that tooth, we'll break the spirit of the people of Kandy and take them over, no problem at all. So that is exactly what they did, except that the tooth they stole was a fake. And the people of Kandy were never subjugated by the Portuguese. So this is the moment that this whole crowd has been waiting for. This festival is all about that tooth that the Portuguese tried to steal. And in that casket, on that huge elephant, flanked by two almost as big male elephants, is the real tooth of Buddha. And the whole of Kandy has turned out to see it. Tip for you. If you go to Perahara, and I thoroughly recommend it, it's fantastic, don't book yourself on a 6 a.m. train the following morning because you'll feel very bleary-eyed indeed. Now, where were we? The Portuguese. They never did take Kandy, but they did continue to wreak havoc in the rest of the country, as did the Dutch, who followed 100 or so years later. And then in 1796, it was the turn of the British.
The people of Sri Lanka resisted as best they could all these foreign interventions. But they couldn't ignore foreign appetites. Cinnamon was and still is an important part of the economic survival of many small farmers. And that includes the cinnamon grower I've come to know, Premal. Today's the day that Premal hopes to sell the cinnamon he's been growing for the last few months. He has no idea where in the world his cinnamon will end up, and his business deals are confined to local middlemen like this one. I've witnessed how much painstaking work goes into making cinnamon, so I'm hoping Premal gets the price he wants. The negotiations aren't going well. Premal's choices are limited. Does he accept a low price or hold his nerve? There's no sale, and this dealer won't return.
These 4 bundles of Premal's beautiful organic cinnamon represent hours of skilled labour and years of experience. Now, Premal didn't sell them today because he was hoping for a price that equates to roughly £4.80 a kilo in English money, and the man wouldn't give it to him. This is cinnamon bought in an English supermarket. It's not organic and it's not as high grade as Premal's, and it cost £1.47 for 13 grams. Now, there's something not quite right about that, isn't there? That's a 2,000% markup. Someone's doing very well out of this trade, but it certainly isn't Premal or any of the other spice farmers around here. It's not only market forces that play a part in cinnamon's fortunes, but the forces of nature.
The devastating tsunami of 2004 killed 4,200 people and wiped out 300 cinnamon farms in this area. And in the face of this destruction, Premal and the other survivors turned to their religion.
The day of the full moon is considered holy in the Buddhist tradition, and I've joined Premal and a procession of the local farmers to make an offering of cinnamon to the god Deval. Now, this is the deity that people turn to in their hour of need, and it's also the god that the people around here believe saved the temple from destruction during the tsunami. So Premal is hoping that this offering today will ensure him and the other farmers a successful cinnamon crop this year.
In Sri Lanka, cinnamon is considered not only good for the body, but sustenance for the soul. A sample from Premal's harvest is a welcome offering at the temple and will be distributed among the poor of his local community. I came to Asia to explore the exotic origins of two staples in every British kitchen cupboard: cinnamon and pepper, two ordinary spices with an extraordinary past. The search for their source opened up the world, and the Europeans who sailed to the ends of the earth for spice made fortunes, while the people who grew them never got their share of the spoils. But the vibrant cultures in India and Sri Lanka, where spice plays a part in everything from sustenance to the sacred, are still going strong. And these lands are still suffused with the scent and taste of pepper and cinnamon.
There are two spices that push the boundaries of exploration further than they had ever been pushed before. They redrew the world map and sparked a war of horrifying brutality in one of the remotest corners of the earth. These spices were cloves and nutmeg.
In 16th century Europe, these spices were treasured as exotic foods and medicine, thought to ward off the plague. But they were also the ultimate status symbol, a kind of medieval bling. A small sack of nutmeg like this could buy a grand house in London. But the problem back then was finding these spices. The only source of nutmeg and cloves was on a tiny cluster of remote islands surrounded by treacherous seas on the other side of the world. Their mysterious and far-flung location accounted for their astronomical price. I'm heading east to find the home of these spices, a mere speck within the archipelago of 17,000 islands we now call Indonesia. I'm starting on the island of Java. Its capital, Jakarta, was an important hub for those searching for the route to the Spice Islands. Even with modern-day transport, there's no direct, reliable way of getting there, so I'm going for the more traditional option.
Hi.
Hi. Yes.
This boat will follow the trail of the Europeans to eastern Indonesia and the Banda Islands. In the 17th century, two European nations entered the spice race with a vengeance: the Dutch and the English. Both nations set up private companies to search for spice. Both wanted the fame of finding the islands, but more importantly, the enormous fortune that securing the monopoly on trade in this region would bring. These maverick merchants were heavily armed and ready to kill any rivals who stood in their way, but they still needed the help of the locals because they were the only ones who knew the exact location of the islands the Europeans wanted so badly to find.
So they would have done the journey with a series of local pilots all asking for enormous amounts of money, and who can blame them? It is an astonishing skill, I think, navigation by the stars. Which way? This way?
Yes, starboard.
Starboard. Okay.
Starboard 5. Compass.
In the spring of 1599, it was the Dutch that beat the English to this archipelago of 10 tiny volcanic islands. After a long and treacherous journey, they had finally found the land where gold grew on trees.
It was the search for these very islands, and most importantly the trees that grow on them, that inspired people to take these crazy journeys and to risk their lives and their fortunes. These are the Banda Islands, and that is Gunung Api. It means fire mountain, and it is a volcano, and very often crews reported that when they arrived here it was belching fire and smoke, and they must have wondered, have we really arrived in heaven, or is this going to be hell?
The eruption of the volcano was not the only thing to greet the Dutch on arrival. All foreign visitors to these lands would have been welcomed by a flotilla of kora-kora canoes. Nowadays, teams from neighbouring islands race each other in an impressive show of strength and stamina. Even the friendly display with which they greeted me was, well, a little intimidating. It must have been even more so for those early Europeans who would never have seen anything like it before. This is Banda Neira, the capital of the Banda Islands, and it's where the Dutch discovered the source of their precious nutmeg, a secret closely guarded by Arab and Asian traders for centuries. Today, these islands produce up to 500 tons of nutmeg a year.
Look at these trees.
You see this nutmeg, many fruit, and this you see these flowers, and this you see this nutmeg, and everything fruits.
Everything. There's nutmeg everywhere you look.
You must know for nutmeg.
Bapa Usman is a fifth-generation nutmeg farmer who has a large orchard of over 200 trees.
I can bring you for nutmeg. Open the trees, you can see.
Look.
Yeah. This you see, this nutmeg. Open the trees.
So this is the ripe nutmeg.
Yes.
And can you use this part of the fruit? Can you use that for anything?
This fruit for jam.
Aha.
Syrup and nutmeg candy.
Nutmeg candy.
Nutmeg candy. And you can see this.
The red inside, yeah?
Yeah, you see red, eh?
Yeah.
This red, maize.
That's the mace. So that's like the casing that goes around the nutmeg.
Also for cosmetic.
For cosmetics?
Yes.
The mace?
Maize. The
Wow,
maize.
okay.
Yeah. Inside maize, nutmeg.
That's the nutmeg.
And for nutmeg, this for cooking, for medicine, and I don't know for what
For everything.
Dutch, England, 100 years before come to Banda for what? For nutmeg.
It made them a fortune.
Many money.
Many money, yeah. And you
And
have 200 trees.
I not money.
So show me how it works.
Usman is an exception to the rule here because he actually owns the land his trees grow on, but he has to pay a hefty 30% tax to the government for the privilege.
You see this open, eh?
Yeah.
I take. Open?
Yeah.
Yes, I take. Ah.
Can I try?
Yes, you like try,
I
okay,
want to
but
try
you
it.
must take open. Eh? If
Only
not
open.
open, I don't like.
Okay. Is this right, Usman?
Okay. Where?
Where? You've taken all the open
Where
ones.
open?
You didn't
I
give
not
me a
see
chance.
more.
You don't see any more? Oh, hang on, I think
Right.
I've got it.
Tick.
Yeah, so a pull,
Okay.
pull.
Okay.
Yay! Okay, let's see what we got.
This I give for camera.
Mine was only little.
Very small.
But yours, look at yours.
Yeah.
They're magnificent.
Ah.
Here we are. So
Yeah.
it's like a jewel.
Oh.
It's like opening a jewel box. Look at this. It's beautiful.
Slowly.
I'm doing very
Okay.
slowly. How do I take it off here?
Open.
Just
Open
oh,
some
like that.
flower. Yeah.
Just peel it off.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's the mace. And
yeah,
look at your
yeah.
beautiful Banda nutmeg.
This nutmeg, you see this black. This for mice, you see red.
The red. And then this is for
this
the jam.
For jam, for syrup, for nutmeg candy. Yeah.
Getting this now.
Nutmeg is a finicky little plant which requires specific conditions to grow, and these islands provide all it needs. It likes warm, humid weather, well-drained, fertile soil, and an annual rainfall of more than 150 centimetres. The rich volcanic soil, hot sun, and frequent downpours here in the Banda Islands produce what many people still consider to be the highest quality of all the world's nutmeg. Once the nutmeg is picked, there's a lot of hard work still to be done before it's ready for market.
Salamat sore.
During harvest season, the women of Banda get together to separate the fruit, the mace and the nutmeg whilst catching up on all the local gossip and having a bit of a laugh.
And that just like that. Do you can eat like that? Raw? No, but I've got this one.
Asam.
Oh my God. Do you always open? And then that is pala.
Yeah.
Pala. Right.
Then I made a discovery. The women told me that what I thought was nutmeg was actually the shiny outer casing, a third layer hiding the true prize.
Okay, so hang on a second. What seems to happen then is you've got these multi-layers. You've got the outside, the mace, then you've got the kind of shell, and inside the shell sits the nutmeg. It's amazing, isn't it, that this funny little wrinkly thing. was worth indescribable amounts of money and made all those mad men sail all the way around the world. So it's really interesting because it seems like after the Dutch came here and turned everything into nutmeg farms, it really has gone back to the old style. So all the women here have the pala trees in the mountain, that's right, yeah? So everyone has their trees, they go and collect the nutmeg. And how many trees do you have? 150 trees. That's a lot of trees.
But even 150 trees are not enough to sustain a family, which is why most people have other jobs and why we have to work flat out.
She's telling me that if I continue to work so slowly, she's going to cut my salary. We haven't even discussed my salary yet. Minika. Married. Oh, am I married? This? Yes. Poor man. And you have baby? Me? No. You 4. You have Lima. 5 children. How do you sleep?
It's been a fun, noisy morning and an insight for me into the importance of nutmeg to the families of Banda today.
Everything finished? Finish?
But the story of nutmeg is not all smiles. It's a dark tale with a brutal ending. There is evidence of the Dutch colonists all around the island and of the Dutch East India Company, known as the VOC. It was one of the world's first corporate empires, and its initials soon became a symbol of fear and hatred for the people of Banda. When you wander around here, all the colonial architecture is Dutch. It looks pretty, but the Dutch legacy is one of horror.
The most fearsome Dutch governor was a man who arrived here in 1607. His name was Jan Pietersen Koen, and his reign heralded an era of Dutch brutality that started with the mass murder of all the tribal chiefs of this very island.
In 1621, Governor Koen hired Japanese mercenaries to execute the island chiefs known as the Orang Kaya. Their bodies were impaled on bamboo poles as a warning to anyone who dared oppose him. This was the beginning of his master plan of domination by extermination, a form of systematic genocide. By the end of the massacre, the population was reduced from 15,000 to just 1,000 people. And then Governor Koen repopulated the island with slave workers from Java. All in the name of nutmeg.
It's a story that's still fresh in the minds of the people of Banda.
Some of the massacred chiefs are buried here. 2 of Banda's leaders, Hamdi and Pakdula, are on a rare visit to this sacred site. The people of the village want to start preparing the rituals they perform to honour the dead chiefs, but first they need to ask permission from the ancestors.
Can you tell me why the people of Banda today are so determined to remember the massacre?
This is our memorial, yeah, from long time ago. And then we still remember the Jan Pietersen Koen. They killed 44 Orang Kaya 1,000 people. Banda. In Holland, they said Jan Pieterszoon is hero. They bring a lot of gold, but our Bandanese said he's the bad man. He's terrorist, penjahat dia. Yeah.
In the village of Ratu, everyone is getting ready for the performance of a dance called the Chakalele. It's a centuries-old ritual to keep the memory of the murdered chiefs alive. After the massacre, the Dutch restricted the Bandanese army numbers to just 5. These young men represent what was left of their ravaged army. Every single item of this eclectic costume is connected to the trade in nutmeg. The helmets, a gift from Europe. The textiles, from Indian traders. And these gold flowers in their mouths are a symbol of how the Bandanese were left without a voice. Today, the islanders have regained their voice and also some control over their nutmeg. These predominantly Muslim islands are ruled from Jakarta, and the government has returned the nutmeg trees to the Bandanese people. But the islanders are still campaigning to regain full control of their land as well. I've come to one of the oldest nutmeg forests on the island. Some of the trees in this former Dutch plantation date back hundreds of years to the time of the Dutch masters. After the massacre of the tribal chiefs, and indeed most of the population of Banda, Governor-General Cohen set about turning the islands into a giant series of nutmeg farms, run by imported slaves and overseen by ruthless Dutch masters. This glorious, wild-looking forest was one of those plantations, and the reason I can say that with such confidence is this magnificent tree. It's a wild almond, and the Dutch planted these to shade the nutmeg trees. Oh, there's one. There's this huge pigeon that lives on these islands, massive thing with dark green wings. There it goes. Gorgeous birds. And they eat the wild almonds. They're also partial to a spot of nutmeg. And their droppings scatter the nutmeg seeds all over this forest. So it's a very, very important spreader of these all-important trees, and are responsible for probably planting more trees than any English, Dutch or Bandanese farmers have ever. More than 200 years ago, European traders smuggled lucrative nutmeg seedlings off the islands. They were spread around the world and grown in tropical regions like the Caribbean and India. As a result, Banda lost its monopoly on nutmeg, and the price plummeted. Today, the industry in Banda is just enough to keep the locals going, and even the children join in by foraging for windfalls. It's like a nutmeg treasure hunt, isn't it? No good. It's green. I'm learning. How about that one? But that's a good one, isn't it? A good one? No?
maybe? No good? No, that's a rubbish one. No. Look what I found. Look. It's mine. It's mine. Look. Surely do I get the thumbs up for that one? Look at that one. Is that good? Oh, and you've just trumped me with an almond. You can eat that one. Can you? Shall I try? Don't know whether it's just come out of a pigeon's bum though. Just when I found my perfect nutmeg, I get trumped by the perfect almond. Those pigeons know what they're doing.
Up to now, I've been on the main Banda Islands that were occupied by the Dutch. But there was one piece of nutmeg real estate the Dutch hadn't seized. A tiny island taken over by their bitter rivals, the English. Now, the English were in this part of the world for the same reason as the Dutch, to make a fortune from nutmeg. They set up a company to rival the VOC, the English East India Company, which was to become the engine that launched the British Empire. And this was their first target, 10 miles west of Banda. This almost inaccessible speck in the ocean, 2 miles by half a mile wide, was to become the first ever English colony, the island of Rune.
You have no idea how lucky we are. This stretch of sea can be absolutely brutal. And you can see it's low tide at the moment because this spit of land is very exposed and there are waves breaking on that reef, and reefs surround this whole island, and it was the ruin of many an English ship.
The man the company chose to win this island for the crown was an unlikely hero. Captain Nathaniel Courthope was a swashbuckling, fearless adventurer and also a bit of a thief. He'd purloined £600 from the company, been punished for the crime, and was ready to redeem himself on the island of Rune. When Captain Courthope arrived in 1616, he was warned to heed the following advice.
At your arrival at Rune, show yourself courteous and affable, for they are a peevish, perverse, diffident and perfidious people, and apt to take disgust upon small occasions, and are, being moved, more cumbersome than wasps. Wow, I'm looking forward to this welcome. It's so shallow here, we're having to watch for the reef. You're going to try go around that way and then hit the beach. All sand here by the looks of things, so we should be pretty good. Salamat pagi! Well done.
Welcome to Manhattan.
Ah, thank you. What a welcome.
Today, I found the reception to this particular English visitor anything but peevish and diffident. Captain Courthope's negotiations with the locals in broken English and sign language were to change the course of history. By offering them protection against the hated Dutch, he persuaded them to hand over control of the island to the English crown. When news reached King James, he was so ecstatic that he changed his title to King of England, Scotland, Ireland, and Rune.
So
You are the leader.
Yeah,
You're very young.
Yeah.
I feel very honoured.
So England in Rune is very famous.
Very famous.
Yes, and then they can pack with the people in Rune Island.
Aha.
The pact with the islanders gave England an exclusive export deal with Rune. Courthope set up plantations and filled flotillas of ships with nutmeg, which went directly to England. All this happened under the noses of the infuriated Dutch, and they set out on a 4-year campaign of ferocious battles to destroy Courthope. In the end, the Dutch tricked Captain Courthope into an ambush at sea.
He fought for his life, but he was outgunned and outmanned, and finally he was shot. The story goes that he threw himself overboard and was never seen again.
The English thorn in the Dutch side was finally removed.
There's little sign that the English were ever here. I mean, there's these few crumbling, rather unloved ruins, but there's no monument. There's nothing that remembers Courthope's brave but futile stand against the Dutch.
But neither is there a memorial to the many islanders who died in a bitter battle between two foreign nations to control the trade of Roon's nutmeg. With Courthope out of the way, the Dutch were now totally in control of the nutmeg trade. But the story doesn't end there. To uncover the next chapter, I need to travel 100 miles across the Banda Sea to the seat of Dutch power in the 17th century, the island of Ambon. Despite their stranglehold on the region and the trade, the Dutch were obsessed with the idea that someone, somewhere, was plotting to oust them. These crumbling walls are all that remain of the once mighty Dutch fort, where many of the Dutch bigwigs hold up, protected by heavily armed soldiers. A handful of Englishmen also lived on the island.
At the time, it numbered just 18, a motley band of merchants and sailors. There was a barber and a tailor. They were all utterly broke and desperate to leave. So they were hardly a threat to anyone. Yet such was the Dutch paranoia that they believed that this little band of bankrupts had a conspiracy to overthrow them.
So the Dutch governor had them thrown in chains, horribly tortured for many days, until they confessed to a conspiracy none of them had any notion of.
And in early 1623, every single one of them was beheaded in front of a baying crowd. Governor-General Cohen's master plan of domination by extermination was well on track.
Finally, to add insult to injury, the Dutch sent the English the bill for the cost of the blood-stained velvet from the executioner's block. After the massacre at the fort, it was all-out war between the Dutch and the English, and the locals were stuck in the middle. Today, Ambon is a busy seaport where residents enjoy all the trappings of modern life whilst retaining strong links to the island's past. At the height of Dutch rule, any rebellious islanders who dared to resist were tortured and many were executed. The memory of this brutality is still an open wound and is remembered by the Ambonese today.
So we were walking through Ambon and heard all this kerfuffle. So obviously had to come and look.
This is the ancient ritual called beating brooms. Two teams of men, both armed with strips of palm leaves, compete against each other.
Oh my God. This wasn't quite the jolly, sort of exotic festival I was expecting.
It looks indescribably brutal, but it's actually a show of brotherhood, as all the men in the village have come together to test their ability to withstand pain.
Possibly the most disturbing thing I've ever witnessed. It's actually making me feel quite sick. So is the man that has the most wounds, he's the strongest?
He's stronger.
He gets the best girlfriend?
Yes. Oh, very best girl.
The Dutch controlled the nutmeg trade here until the middle of the 17th century, but they hadn't bargained on the resilience of the local people. And it's that gave them the patience to bide their time until they could once again take control of their nutmeg. The final chapter in our story of nutmeg is taking me back to England's first colony, that tiny island of Roon. Unlikely though it seems, it was from here that a huge shift in global power was about to begin. In 1620, after the death of Captain Courthope, England lost this nutmeg-rich island to Holland. Almost 50 years passed before England's King Charles II took his revenge. He sent a fleet across the Atlantic in retaliation and took a Dutch-held island called New Amsterdam. 2 years later, the two sides got together to try and establish some sort of peace, but it looked impossible. The English were demanding Roon back, the Dutch were categorically refusing, and it looked like deadlock until one bright spark said, look, why don't you just hang on to the islands you already have? So the English reluctantly said, okay, we'll keep New Amsterdam, you, the Dutch, can have Roon. And so that's what they did. The English turned their backs on the Spice Islands, renamed New Amsterdam, New York, and a whole new period of colonization began. While the English may have focused their attentions on another part of the globe, the Spice Islands remained a highly desirable target for other European powers. Early spice explorers didn't come all this way just for one spice. They also came in search of the other most highly desired spice of the time, the equally exotic companion to nutmeg, cloves. It was treasured for its flavour and as a wonder drug, and even as an aphrodisiac. To find out more about this spice, I'm heading 300 miles north and across the equator to the original home of cloves, the island of Ternate. The story of the European quest for this spice starts even earlier than nutmeg, but it was fueled by the same ambition: to cut out Arab and Asian middlemen and control the source of the spice itself. And the first explorers to this part of Indonesia were not the Dutch, it was the Portuguese. When they arrived here, they found ancient kingdoms at war with one another. The Portuguese had come for cloves, and the rival kingdoms wanted weapons. It was a perfect match.
Ternate is one of a string of volcanic islands that used to be the only places on Earth where you could find cloves. Each one is ruled by a sultan, and rivalry between the main islands, Ternate, and its near neighbour, Tidore, was and remains fierce. So when the Europeans first arrived, the Portuguese, both sultanates were keen to get them on side, because an alliance with these rich, well-armed strangers would give them the upper hand. It was the Sultan of Ternate who won the day and the Portuguese trade and gave them the monopoly over cloves for over half a century.
The intense, nose-tickling aroma of cloves pervades everything. These little black twigs are actually the dried flower buds from the clove trees. It feels like the entire island is made of cloves. In the 16th century, Ternate was the most prosperous trading port in the whole of Indonesia. And the Sultan was hugely powerful. Europeans arrived with weapons and luxury trinkets in the hope of winning his favour. Even today, nobody does anything on this island without the permission of the Sultan.
Now, I don't have any cannons or armour or fancy goods to trade, but if I'm going to get under the skin of this island, I need to request an audience from the Sultan in there.
When the early European traders arrived, protocol demanded they present themselves to the Sultan before any negotiations could begin. Today, I've secured an invitation to the palace so that I can do the same.
Crikey, I wasn't expecting this. So if I was a Portuguese or a Dutch or an English trader, I would be feeling a little overwhelmed by now.
Before I enter the palace, it's been suggested, nicely but firmly, that I change into something more suitable to meet a king.
And I definitely wasn't expecting this. It's quite difficult to turn in a collar like this. I know what Elvis must have felt like.
Ternate has the longest surviving Islamic sultanate in the whole of Indonesia. Sultan Mudaffar is the 48th sultan in a line that extends back over 800 years.
Mrs. Kate Hebel untuk mengambil tempat. We would like to invite Mrs. Kate Hebel to please take position.
The Sultan has decided to award me one of his highest honours and adopt me as an honorary citizen of Ternate. But then the Queen gives me a sash emblazoned with the word princess. Not just a citizen, I'm now royalty.
Congratulations to be the Princess of Ternate. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Mrs. Kate, humble lan modadi ka Princess Sultanate of Ternate. Naterima?
Terima.
Nga naterima?
Terima.
Naterima?
Terima.
Coba ngon terima raima. No isa. Tumabanga hati lamo ruka semuhia idumahan. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin.
With my new title comes certain responsibilities. I am now an emissary of cloves for Ternate to the world.
Should I now be something of like an ambassador for Ternate back in my own country?
Like an ambassador.
Okay, well, I shall make sure that I do nothing to bring the good name into disrepute.
But I didn't come here to dress in sequins and hobnob with royalty. I'm here to see exactly what drew the European explorers to Ternate in the first place. The Sultan gave me an introduction to one of his courtiers, Venera Yusman, whose family have been farming cloves for generations. They live at the foot of Mount Gamalama.
Walking through the woods here is like walking through the exotic section of a supermarket. Pala, nutmeg, there are papaya trees, there are clove trees, banana, cocoa. So the guys come up to their trees on the slopes of the volcano, and it was about, I would say, a good hour and a half, really steep climb. And then their working day begins. Yeah?
Yeah.
Look at them. They're so pretty. They're like sort of, I don't know, kind of candelabras or something.
The aromatic shade of these majestic trees is the perfect place to escape the scorching heat of the day. The flowers must be picked before they blossom. It's when the buds are beginning to turn pink that they have the most fragrance.
It's amazingly labour-intensive. Valera and I are doing the beginners picking, the lower branches, but they pick from right up at the top.
This traditional method of harvesting cloves hasn't changed since the time of the Portuguese. It involves a complicated matrix of ropework and branch pulling to dislodge the topmost flowers and reach the buds on the furthest away branches. Back in the village, everyone pitches in with the next stage of the clove harvest.
Basically, we are stealing the cloves, and that's the sort of local phrase for doing this, for separating the cloves from the stalks. You kind of pinch the stalks together, and then you put them in your hand and snap them back, and that breaks all the cloves off the stalk. And the cloves go in one pile, and the stalks go in another. We have a walnut tree at home. It had the most fantastic crop of walnuts this year. So just before I came to Indonesia, we picked a whole load and pickled them. And one of the things that you use in pickling walnuts is cloves. But I just had no idea of the amount of labour involved in getting one little clove. It's funny, isn't it? I mean, they've become so ordinary to us, and yet when you see it like this, and you see that an entire family, an entire community's lives rely on the little things that I was sticking in my walnut pickle, just makes you appreciate them a little bit more.
Aibom capile pulo do daga. Aibom capile pulo do daga. Pulo do daga mayam te oromega pinyota jowe.
Everywhere I walk around this island, I come across cloves lining the streets, drying in the sun.
This is one sack of cloves. I think they weigh about 20 kilos. And it took all of us, what were there, 5 or 6 of us? Just about an hour. Quite satisfying though.
Jemur begini selama 3 hari, terus kering.
3 days in the sun? Yeah. Okay, so this will lie here for 3 days.
As well as the buds, the clove stalks are in demand, and their most prominent use is in one of Indonesia's biggest industries. The #1 use for cloves today is to flavour cigarettes. Crushed clove stalks are mixed with tobacco to create the hugely popular Kretek cigarette. It's such a massive business that multinationals like Marlboro are now part of this lucrative trade.
Watching these women work is absolutely dizzying. I mean, it looks almost like I'm seeing them sort of speed it up 10 times, but that's actually the speed that they're working. Lisa's been working here for 16 years, and like all the other women on this factory floor, she'll roll about 400 cigarettes in 1 hour. And one little fact I found out is not a single one of these women smoke. I sort of want to have a go, and I sort of really don't. I haven't rolled a cigarette for 6 years at least. A bit more? Like that? Ah, so push it in like that. And then down. Stop. These women have 3 months of training to be able to do this. What am I doing wrong now? Even with your help, it's a disaster. And let's try another one. Okay, let's try again. Come on, please work, please work. Aha! What do you think, Inspector? Go on, fit in the special hole. Yeah!
Despite the fact that most of the country's clove crop goes up in smoke, Indonesia is still one of the largest producers of cloves in the world. And it's now a global trade whose roots go all the way back to the Portuguese adventurers who changed it forever. When they came here, they enjoyed several years of good business dealings with the locals. But then they turned nasty and demanded total domination. It was from this Portuguese fort that a series of horrifying events took place. And it started when the Portuguese kidnapped the Sultan.
So in 1570, they killed him. Now, as you can imagine, the islanders were up in arms. They rushed to this fort, but they couldn't take the Portuguese on at war because the Portuguese had guns and they didn't. So instead, the Ternatians blocked off all the exits to the fort, and the Portuguese were under siege for 5 years. Finally, starvation forced them to surrender.
It was the end of the Portuguese stranglehold here in Ternate. In a village near the palace, young children are learning a war dance. The Sultan's head of music is Atta Hassan Ali. He is teaching them the Soya Soya dance.
Soya Soya sih tarian waktu mereka mengingat waktu mengambil Sultan Khairul dibunuh oleh Portugis pada tahun 1577. Waktu Portugis di sini memang kita sangat marah karena mereka merampas hak-hak kita. Jadi biarlah itu terjadi, kita ambil baik-baiknya saja.
By the late 1500s, after the murder of the Sultan and their embarrassing forced surrender, Portuguese influence dwindled. The new Sultan was only too willing to woo another foreign power to his shores. So who stepped into the breach? It was the Dutch that took over the clove trade from the Portuguese. The Dutch arrived here in May 1599, eager to take over another highly lucrative trade, but in a highly unorthodox way. Cloves also grew on the Dutch-controlled island of Ambon. To dominate the market, they decided to limit it, therefore pushing up the price in Europe. Ambon would keep its cloves, but every single tree on Ternate would be destroyed.
Now, obviously, the Sultan wouldn't have let them just cut the trees down, so they had to be a little bit sneaky about it. They told the people of Ternate that the Europeans didn't want cloves anymore. They wanted whole branches, and then they wanted bark, and then they wanted the roots, so that one by one, the clove trees of Ternate started to die. Apart from this one, which was a little sapling being kept in the Sultan's palace. And even today, it sort of serves as an arboreal up yours to the colonisers, because the Dutch aren't here, and cloves most certainly are.
Ternateans believe that every single clove tree on the island descends from this very tree. Being here during the harvest month, I've seen how cloves permeate every aspect of daily life. The women of the village are preparing a special Thanksgiving meal called salamat an.
I've been placed on coconut duty. This is the most fantastic tool. Am I doing this right? Yeah? It's good? This is what we needed when we won coconuts on the coconut shy, and then had no idea how to get at the things. Yeah? Chenke. These?
And of course, cloves play a central part in this feast. They're mixed with the coconut to create a delicious rice dish.
You want... So they must go in there? Yeah. Everything? Like that?
Yeah.
Oh, like that. White rice, and I think there might be some lemongrass. No one is going to go hungry today. Yeah. Like that. Let's see if mine worked. Yeah! Can I try one? It looks like the volcano, doesn't it? Looks like the volcano out here, like this. Yeah. It's rice sculpture. It's amazing.
Ini rakyat, nanti ini seperti Pak Sultan.
Ah, okay. So this one is a symbol of the people, and this is the symbol of the Sultan.
My time in Indonesia is almost over. It's been an emotional and sometimes horrifying journey, but all along I've been welcomed and given a glimpse into how nutmeg and cloves continue to shape the lives of the people here. And I've become a princess. I didn't get to keep the outfit though. It's astonishing to think that these tiny islands that barely feature on the map and their spices, which are now found on every supermarket shelf, have had such a major impact on world history and global trade. Yet today, they remain as remote and exotic as they were half a millennium ago. The two most highly prized spices in the modern world have spread around the globe in the wake of some of the world's greatest conquests. I'll be following the trail of saffron, or red gold, from Morocco to Spain in the footsteps of the Moorish Empire. And from Spain to the New World to discover how Mexican vanilla became one of the world's favorite tastes.
My journey begins here in Morocco's high Atlas Mountains, where I'm hoping to uncover the story of a spice that Alexander the Great used as shampoo and Cleopatra bathed in. Celebrated in the Bible, it's so ancient its origins are unclear. But today it's best known for being the most expensive spice in the world. It's saffron.
But why is it so costly? How can a simple ingredient really cost a staggering £4,000 a kilo? Well, this is a good place to find out.
Assaïs is the centre of the saffron farming region here in Morocco. And every Wednesday, all the farmers come down from their farms and little villages and settlements in the mountains around here to the market to sell their produce. And what's unique, I think, in Morocco about this market is there's not a tourist in sight. There's no one pressing me to buy a carpet or to have a cup of tea. It's just the real deal. Oh my goodness. C'est comme un monstre, un dinosaur. It is an extraordinary market, this. I mean, you can buy everything from dried up reptiles to dates to fish sandwiches.
But what I haven't seen is any saffron, yet we're right in the heart of Morocco's saffron growing region. I'm hoping that a little local knowledge will help me track it down. Mahfoud Mohadin's family has been in the saffron business for generations.
You are welcome.
Look at the colour of that.
Good colours.
So this is from saffron?
Yes, yes. Saffron tea, yeah? You can see. Yeah. Up.
Look at the colour of that.
It's red gold.
Red gold,
Yes,
it is.
yes.
It is like red gold.
Yes.
So this is it, saffron. It's the stigma, the inner part of a tiny purple crocus.
Good colour.
Good.
But the smell is unusual. It's like, it smells sort of smoky, it smells sort of like honey.
You are good smelling, no?
I can't describe it.
Yeah.
Shall we taste?
Saha.
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 Good to meet you.
Saha.
Oh, that's delicious.
Yeah, delicious.
I'm going to like this saffron journey, I think. It's going to be a good journey of discovery.
Thank you, I am happy. Yeah.
Saffron has been grown and sold by the Berber people in this area for thousands of years.
The market now is really filling up, getting busy.
Yes.
But I still can't see any on sale.
Yes.
Spices.
Yeah?
Saffron here?
No. Saffron? No. Yeah. No, I'm positive.
Don't say I'm mad.
It's the gold saffron. Do you like to see saffron?
Of course, I came here to see.
Come. Yes. Here. The saffron series is here. Saffron. Assalamu alaikum. Kul shay bikhair. Here, you can see.
Goodness.
Yes, it's
So
the good
you
saffron.
keep it hidden
Yes.
away.
Yes.
Saffron is famed not just for its taste, but its colour, as this simple test shows. This is top quality saffron.
So this is how you know it's good?
Yes.
say I want to buy like this much.
Yes, it's 5 grams.
Is everyone
Did you
gathering
see?
around because I look like I'm
Yes.
buying a lot? 5 grams of saffron is how much? 200 dirham.
Yes.
About 20 pounds for 5
Yes.
grams.
Yes.
So if I buy saffron, Mahfoud knows everybody in this market, absolutely everybody. So are you selling saffron?
Yes, yes, yes. You want to buy the saffron?
He's selling it.
Yes, yes.
Aha.
Yes.
You are a saffron farmer.
Do you like to see saffron flower?
Of course,
Yes,
yeah.
yes,
I mean,
yes.
is it possible?
In the garden.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'd love to.
Ahmed, they have garden of saffron.
Can I come to your farm and see it?
Ahmed lives just a few kilometers from the market in an area that seems too barren to grow anything.
Oh, Ahmed, you live in a beautiful place.
Yes.
Look at that. Oh.
The garden saffron is here.
This is your garden down here?
Yes, next is the Igranican.
It's like a small oasis.
Yes, yes,
in
small,
the middle of
yes.
all this dry landscape.
Because the saffron, he like the dry climate.
It likes the dry climate.
Climate, yes. Every family has the garden of saffron.
Really?
Yes,
so
yes,
everyone
yes.
will grow it
Yes,
in this
every,
region?
Yes.
I never imagined that in a harsh landscape like this, you could grow such delicate little flowers.
This is saffron flower.
So this
Yes.
is what you mean? This is like my crocuses at home? It's the
Okay,
same,
without...
But without the... Yeah.
The crucial difference is this, the bright red stigma, the female parts of the plant, which dried become saffron.
And then you have to remove this
Yes.
by hand.
Yes.
Every single flower?
Yes, yes.
That's so much work.
Ahmed comes from a long line of saffron farmers. Their knowledge and skill passed down through the generations. Their secret is the irrigation of their fields.
There's a pile of sheep dung in each one, and as the water comes in, that spreads out the dung, so he fertilises and waters the field at the same time. It's genius. If we looked at this landscape, we'd think nothing can grow here. It's completely barren. And yet, the Berber make it a Garden of Eden, a Garden of Saffron.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Very good.
Ahmed dries and stores his saffron in a special room in his house. He sells some of it immediately, but he will also keep some by.
Oh, this is the saffron. So this is
Last
the bank
year.
account. This is last
year.
Last year's savings account.
Yes, yes. It's for
Very,
security.
very- Absolutely.
If one member of family is ill,
If someone has to go to hospital, this is like your insurance.
do
Do you want to give yourself a saffron here?
I like.
Yeah, I can tell.
It's very good. Nice, yes,
Most of today's farmers keep their saffron safe in padlocked metal boxes, but one nearby village does things on a much grander scale. Mahfoud and I are climbing up to see an ancient storehouse for the villagers' valuables.
I was not expecting that. Oh, my goodness. That's not a storehouse, that's a castle for saffron. It's beautiful.
Beautiful, huh?
It looks impenetrable. It's amazing.
Not much is stored here now, but the sheer size of this fortress-like complex is impressive.
Bismillah.
Built over many centuries, it shows just how precious saffron has always been.
How does this work?
This is the box. More box.
So every little wooden door
Yeah.
is like someone's safe. It's like a bank vault.
Yes, saffron, honey, money, all.
Anything that is valuable.
Yes. The door small door.
The door is small.
But the cave it's big.
The cave is
Yes, big.
It's a Berber Fort Knox.
Yeah.
What an idea! I love it. Oh, I feel like I'm in Indiana Jones.
Bismillah. Hop.
Oh,
Hopla.
thank you. What must it be like to live in a landscape like this?
Impressionó, hein?
Oh,
Ah oui.
and all for saffron.
Ah oui.
All because people want to store some bits of flowers safely.
Yes.
There's a magic hour to pick saffron. It's just after dawn, when the morning dew has evaporated and before the flowers wither. I've joined Ahmed's extended family on their daily walk to work.
You start to appreciate why saffron is so expensive. It is ridiculously labour-intensive, and I can't even see how you could mechanise any part of this. Are you stealing my flowers? You are, aren't you?
Each saffron bulb produces 4 flowers, one at a time, over 5 or 6 days. Harvesting will go on for about a month, and then it's all over until next year. It takes an astonishing 200,000 flowers to yield just a single kilogram of saffron, worth up to £4,000. But even if Ahmed's family could pick that amount, they would be lucky to see a quarter of that price. In a good year, saffron provides just enough for Ahmed's family to live on, with a little left over to put in his storeroom.
This field behind me was totally purple, and every single flower has gone. Only for that magic to happen again tomorrow morning, and there'll be more flowers. Let me see, have you got, look, oh look, we've got, look. This is a sign of a saffron picker.
Oh.
Yeah, we've both got purple fingers. It means good? But I've been...
Once all the morning's flowers are picked, we return to Ahmed's house for the next job.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Separating the precious stigmas from the flowers.
So I go like this, like that. You just pull. Yeah. Okay. Wait, come and show me how to do this. You just get the feeling that this scene could almost be exactly the same as 1,000 years ago. Encore.
After saffron plucking, I join the women preparing the evening meal. Almost everything we're going to eat tonight was grown in Ahmed's fields, including, of course, the saffron.
There's quite a lot of saffron going in here. It's beautiful. So does this go in the couscous?
While everything's cooking, the women decide I look far too unladylike and set about transforming me with traditional Berber dress and saffron makeup.
So Adija is grinding up the saffron to a powder. It's very soothing, though. It feels like she's putting dots all over my face. Fatim, you've made me look like a princess.
Suitably dressed, I join the family to eat the spice that is so intrinsic to their way of life.
I think, for the first time in my life, I can actually taste saffron. And it tastes really unusual, but undeniably exotic taste. It's just wonderful.
The tradition of saffron growing here hasn't changed for centuries. In the year 711, the Berbers carried these traditions north when they crossed the Mediterranean to conquer Spain. They took their customs, their Islamic religion, and their saffron bulbs.
And so it's Spain that I'm heading to next.
The Berbers sailed from Africa across the Straits of Gibraltar and pushed deep into the heart of Spain. The Muslim conquest of the Iberian Peninsula took only 7 years to complete, but was to last over 7 centuries. The new Berber rulers became known as the Moors, and their traditions and sense of taste travelled with them.
This is La Mancha, a huge swathe of flat land about 100 kilometres south of Madrid. And it's famous for 2 things. It was the setting of Spain's best-known novel, Don Quixote, but it's also the centre of Spanish saffron production.
Just like in the Atlas Mountains in Morocco, the cold winters and hot summers here suited saffron well. La Mancha became known as the saffron capital of the world. The town of Consuegra, in the heart of La Mancha, comes alive every year during the saffron picking season.
There's lots of people queuing over there.
The town plays host to a 3-day festival to celebrate the harvest of saffron.
I think everybody is queuing for the classic Spanish dish. It is, of course, paella, and it has saffron in it. Well, a good one does, anyway. Qué bueno.
Seco.
Okay.
Eso se llama tomatilla.
Y saffron.
Sí, también lleva un poquito.
So
También lleva un
saffron.
poquito.
Sí.
Sí.
What we have here is a really typical dish of the region. It's a mixture of peppers, tomatoes. There are strands of saffron in here.
A ver si le gusta.
Oh my gosh, it's delicious.
As in Morocco, the saffron farms here are largely family-owned. But during the harvest, the people of the town always lend a hand, separating the stigmas from the flowers.
Okay, ladies.
El rabito. Mira, esta mano quieta.
This one stays here, like this.
Esa ahí quieta.
Break this off. Open this up. I'm not moving the hand, and that like that. How do you ladies spend your days? What do you do?
No hacemos nada.
Nada.
Viejas. Nada.
Because you're old.
Ya somos muy viejas.
You're not much older than me. Do you all like saffron? Do you cook with saffron at home?
Mucho.
Mucho?
Está muy bueno, muy bueno. Pues lo más importante es esto, el azafrán. Porque lo he tenido toda mi vida. Me he hecho mi casa con azafrán.
Wow.
Such was the value of saffron. The women here are telling me that unless you were known to have a healthy store of the spice, no one would agree to marry you.
Teníamos guardado en bolsas de plástico y lo guardábamos por cuando hacía falta dinero. Y había gente que tenía 5 o 6 libras guardadas. Sí. Claro.
It may not be such a consideration these days, but saffron is still an intrinsic part of life in this region of Spain.
Mira, we all... you can see who's been working the hardest, not me.
Antes de darte el limón se te quita.
These sleepy towns in La Mancha are one of the world's biggest centres of trade in saffron. As well as growing it, they import the spice from all over the globe, from countries like India and Iran. And there are no shortage of experts who can detect which saffron comes from where. I've joined 30 saffron Sherlocks in a blind tasting to tell the best from the rest.
De la máquina que tenga creo que son los 3 primeros concursantes que tengan más puntos, pues les van a tener premio.
This is a competition to try and establish the difference between saffrons. So one of these 4 samples is the best. It's from La Mancha. And one of them is apparently from Iran. It's one of those foreign imposters.
Vamos a decir un poco maliciosos. Vamos a fiar de nadie.
And everyone here looks very knowledgeable.
Empezamos ya directamente,
The good ones should smell slightly fruity and kind of humid, whereas the old ones will smell rancid. You see, look at the colour of that. It just looks old and kind of orangey yellow and a bit dead. I don't know. Okay. Can you imagine? I'll be drummed out of town if I like the Iranian one best. I'm going for number 4 as the good stuff.
Otro fin competitivo. O sea, realmente...
The results are in.
El primero era el iraní. El tercero, azafrán de la Mancha. Y el cuarto, manchego mediano.
Oops. So basically, I got it incredibly wrong. Now I'm going to have to leave town.
It's been great fun testing my saffron taste buds, but protecting the quality of saffron is a serious business. Anything that sells for up to £4,000 per kilo is going to inspire imitation. I'm on my way to the University of Albacete, where scientists are trying to establish how to tell pure saffron from some often very sophisticated fakes.
Wow! Are these like your children?
Yeah, almost.
Professor Jose Antonio Perez is studying the plant's DNA, and he shows me some examples of the way imitations that are sold as pure saffron are anything but.
Because saffron is so expensive, it has been mixed with many things. Different plants
That one is not saffron.
This is sold as, I mean, even I, in my beginner status, can tell this isn't saffron. It actually looks like a little dried flower petal.
Yeah, it is. This is another plant, which is sometimes...
That's turmeric.
Turmeric, that's right.
So they will mix turmeric...
They could do.
...with saffron.
Yeah, they could do.
It could be ground up bits of coloured plastic, and you wouldn't know.
Sometimes it is.
Really? It can be plastic?
It can be plastic, could be organic or not organic material.
So we could all be sprinkling bits of coloured plastic on our food and never know.
Exactly.
But why would they do that?
Because these materials are very, very cheap. And saffron, the pure saffron, is very expensive. So this is very simple.
But some of the fakes are so very sophisticated, made from plants that are chemically almost identical to saffron, that it's only by testing their DNA that Professor Perez and his team can tell the fake from the real thing.
What Marcela is doing now is the DNA fingerprinting of saffron. DNA fingerprinting. We should do something practical in terms of our approach is practical science. So we were trying to help because it's our duty. All these things has to be done. Otherwise, we will not be sure of having saffron for the next 4,000 years.
But fakery doesn't just affect the saffron trade. It has a knock-on effect wherever the spice is used. Manolo de la Osa is a celebrated local chef with a passion for real saffron.
Saffron. A lot. So you use quite... You want me to do that? Like
Quiero
this?
decirle que hay que ser generoso con el azafrán también, ¿eh? Es un producto muy caro, pero pesa muy poco.
Okay.
He pensado hacerle una sopa de cenizas de ajo con azafrán, que es la parte importante. El azafrán es un producto natural. Esto es no vale nada.
So this is completely chemical.
In Manolo's opinion, saffron-coloured powder can and will never be a substitute for true La Mancha saffron.
Pero el azafrán manchego se distingue, son los estigmas de la flor, rojos intensos. Se consigue que este azafrán sea excelente. Aquí, en este puchero, ya tenemos un caldo, que es como un cocido de jamón, con gallina, con azafrán.
So in here is this wonderful... Well, Manolo described it as a sort of broth, but it's like a stew, really. It's absolutely thick with meat, and it smells amazing.
Entonces, desde niño tengo esos aromas, el olor del tostado, y como consecuencia de estos recuerdos infantiles, ¿no? Y de estas cosas he decidido hacer este plato, ¿no?
And what's amazing is that from all that cooking, you really smell the saffron coming out.
¿Ah, sí? Perfecto. Ajá.
Oh, that's amazing. I promise you, never will I use turmeric instead of saffron.
The saffron trail leads from the Atlas Mountains in Morocco to the plains of Spain and beyond. In La Mancha, the joyful celebrations of the saffron harvest mask a hard truth. Fake saffron threatens the livelihoods of communities throughout the saffron-growing world. But there are people prepared to fight to keep the integrity of the world's most expensive spice. The Moors left their mark here in Spain, influencing both food and architecture. But by the late 1400s, Moorish power had diminished. King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella were ruling a newly united Spain. After kicking out the Moors, they too wanted to spread their influence to lands beyond their borders.
It was they that sponsored the explorations that would find a whole new world and a new spice hitherto entirely unknown in Europe.
The Spanish fleet was sent westward in search of the fabled Spice Islands. It was entirely the wrong direction. They failed to find the Spice Islands, but they did discover the lands that were to become known as the Americas, and with them came a whole new source of exotic tastes. This coast in Mexico is where one of the most infamous of the Spanish invaders landed. It was 1519, and Hernán Cortés was the man with his eye on a spice fortune. The people who lived here in the city of Cuihuitzlan eyed his arrival with suspicion.
These ancient ruins are not Aztec or Mayan. They're actually Totonac, and it was the Totonac people that totally dominated this region of Mexico before and during the time that Cortés first arrived here. It was the Totonac people of this city who were amongst the first to be aware of Cortés's arrival, because when he did come here, he anchored his ships on that tiny rock out there.
The people Cortés met on his arrival here were the guardians of an exotic spice totally unknown to the Europeans or the Arab traders who had kept the taste buds of Europe tingling for centuries with spices like pepper, cinnamon, and nutmeg. This was something entirely new. It was vanilla. The Totonac farmed and cured vanilla as a medicine and a perfume for their temples. And Totonac cities like this were spread all along the coast of Veracruz. One of the biggest was here, in the very heart of the vanilla growing area.
This city, El Tajín, was once a major Totonac centre where vanilla would have been used as a currency. It had enormous value even back then, largely because the Totonac believed it was sacred, and here's why. There once lived a princess called Morning Star, and she was so beautiful and pure of spirit, it was decreed that she should never be possessed by a mortal man. Now, unfortunately, a young man named Running Deer ignored that decree, fell madly in love with her, and she clearly did with him because they ran away together. The high priests were furious, set off in hot pursuit, and when they found them, they put them to death immediately. And on the spot where their blood was spilled, a plant grew up. You guessed it, a vanilla vine. And when the beans ripened, the scent was deemed to be so exquisite, it could only be the embodiment of the pure spirit of the princess. Don't forget that next time you're having a bowl of ice cream.
Nearby is the city of Papantla. It is the centre of the vanilla growing business in Mexico, and some of the people living here are Totonac, direct descendants of the tribe that Cortés first encountered.
Totonac, vanilla, the real thing. Oh.
Not so long ago, these streets were covered in vanilla. This film, shot in Papantla in 1923, shows vanilla pods being left out to dry in the sun. So famous was the city for its sweet-smelling vanilla that Papantla became known as the city that perfumed the world. Just a few miles outside Papantla lie the lush tropical forests where vanilla still grows today.
Okay.
Jose Luis Hernandez has been growing vanilla all his life, and he's an enthusiast for the original Totonac ways of cultivating the spice.
Esta es la planta de la vainilla.
Oh my goodness. I just had no idea it was going to look like that. It looks like a mad, primeval vine. It's amazing.
Es originaria de México y es una orquídea.
These are the beans.
Sí, el fruto de la vainilla.
So this is what it looks like.
For hundreds of years, up until the 19th century, vanilla could only grow in this region. And here's the reason. One tiny little insect unique to this part of the world. It's called the Melipona bee, and it's the sole pollinator of the vanilla flower.
Es endémica de México, 100% mexicana. Es el insecto melipona. Entonces, es una atracción que se tiene las flores así con el insecto.
So when the flower comes out, the little bee pollinates the flower, and then the flower dies, and the fruit begins to grow.
Sí, exactamente. Así es.
Vanilla takes a very long time to grow. From the appearance of the first flower to the harvest of the vanilla pod takes 9 months. I've arrived after the flowering season, so I'm not expecting to be able to see a vanilla flower.
La flor es una por día y es efímera.
Okay. Is that a flower about to come?
Sí, exactamente.
But this is completely out of season.
Hay cosas que la naturaleza da para personas especiales como tú.
You Mexicans, you're so charming.
Esa es la buena, pero es para ti. Nomás un momento, unas horas va a abrir. En la mañana y a mediodía cierra. Y se acabó. Al otro día es otra nueva flor.
And you think it could flower tomorrow?
Sí, mañana.
Will you call me?
Sí, te voy a hablar.
Okay, perfect.
Para que veas.
So we might see a vanilla orchid. That would be amazing. I feel like I've had a morning of complete revelation. Who'd have guessed that it has to be pollinated by one particular tiny species of bee, and only then can those beans grow? What is without doubt is that vanilla is definitely Mexican. In fact, it's definitely Totonac. It comes from this region. It is absolutely rooted here. And I feel that I have actually come to the very birthplace of vanilla.
"30 meters above the ground in Papantla are 5 Totonac men about to take part in a spectacular ritual. It's a call to their gods to help ensure a good crop of vanilla.
Oh my goodness, look at them. They're now doing the fertility dance, or sort of ritual dance to their fertility god. Way back when, there was a huge drought here and it looked like the whole vanilla crop was going to be devastated, which of course would have destroyed the region. So some Totonac men got together and said, okay, what do we need to do to make it rain? We need to do something spectacular to inspire our fertility god to make it rain. And this is what they came up with.
The Spanish invader Cortés would have been the first European to witness this spectacle, but he had his eye on a higher prize. The legend of El Dorado spoke of untold amounts of gold, and Cortés was determined to find it. he headed inland in search of the most powerful ruler in Mexico. Montezuma, the king of the Aztecs.
And Montezuma welcomed Cortés with a drink that he felt was fit for a king. It was cacao, chocolate, flavoured with our old friend vanilla. And Cortés became the very first European to taste that most aromatic of spices.
Cortés wasted no time in shipping this exotic spice back to Spain, little knowing he was introducing Europe to a taste that today has become ubiquitous and hugely popular the world over.
José Luis, ¿dónde estás? Hola.
Vamos.
Okay,
La
okay.
flor abrió.
It
Hoy.
happened?
Sí.
Yeah.
¿Abrió? Sí.
So exciting.
Ahí está la orquídea.
Oh,
Mira.
but it's beautiful.
La flor abrió hoy.
It's just such an astonishing colour.
Sí, abrió.
It's like fresh.
Y nomás un momento.
It's an extraordinary piece of luck to see a vanilla orchid bloom out of season. But if the secret to the success of growing vanilla lies with the little Melipona bee that only exists here, how did vanilla ever grow outside Mexico?
Well, this chap is the reason. His name was Edmund Albius, and in 1841 he was a 12-year-old slave boy living on an estate in Réunion, then a French colony in the Indian Ocean just off the coast of Madagascar. Now, at that time, his master, like so many others, were desperately trying to cultivate vanilla. The vines would grow beautifully in hot tropical climates like that, but what they couldn't get to happen was for them to flower on any regular basis. Well, one day, Edmund was wandering around his master's estate when he happened across a vanilla flower, and he discovered somehow that if he fiddled with it in a certain way, he could pollinate it. And it worked. It produced a bean. He managed to work out how to pollinate it.
And this is how he did it.
So are you going to pollinate this now?
Sí, te voy a enseñar con ese polinizador.
José Luis uses a sliver of wood, just as Edmund Albius did, to move a membrane aside before pollinating the plant.
Yeah.
Voy a ayudar aquí el estigma.
José Luis brushes the pollen on the tip of the stick across the stigma to fertilize the flower.
Aquí voy a apretar suavemente. Y ya.
Yeah.
¿Ya hay polinice?
Yeah.
Ya está.
Yeah. So what Jose has done is basically the work of the bee and brought the male and female parts of the plant together. So it's now fertilized. I can't believe how lucky we've been.
¿Eh?
What a day! You're amazing!
Algo maravilloso.
Discovering how to hand-pollinate vanilla was a major breakthrough, but it was the beginning of the end for Mexico's monopoly on the world's supply of the spice. In less than 100 years, the island of Madagascar was producing more vanilla than Mexico. Now, little more than 1% of the world's vanilla comes from Mexico. Norma Gaia runs one of the oldest vanilla companies in the country. Here, after months of curing, the vanilla is graded according to quality.
We storage here in these boxes. Since my grandfather, we use the same system.
The best vanilla pods are valued for their rich flavour, aroma and amount of vanillin oil.
This is naturally. You can see the crystals.
Oh, yeah, I can see.
Very good thing. This is crystals. It's a lot of vanillin content.
So it's the vanillin the content that makes it valuable, isn't it? I mean, the smell of it is like It doesn't smell like any vanilla I've ever smelt before.
No.
It smells like alcohol. I'm feeling a little bit drunk, just smelling it. But what I don't understand, Norma, is why are you producing only a fraction of the world's vanilla?
Because the people, they don't know about the vanilla is from Mexico, and the vanilla grow here in the Totonac area. So most of the natural vanilla go outside of Mexico.
Does that mean that basically people like the Totonac farmers, the traditional vanilla growers, have stopped growing?
Yep.
So it seems that not only have Mexicans lost interest in vanilla, but the world's traders themselves have turned to other countries with lower labour costs to acquire the spice. Madagascar and Indonesia have become the places for vanilla. Mexico has been left behind. José Manuel Rodriguez is a vanilla exporter only too aware of the seriousness of the situation.
Is there a danger that Mexican vanilla could become extinct?
Unfortunately, I would have to say yes. If things don't change, if producers, farmers keep getting so disappointed about what they get for their green vanilla, the global market stays so low, they will just stop producing it.
But there is still hope. José is one of a new wave of Mexicans hoping to convince a growing gourmet market that all the work involved in producing the original Mexican vanilla really does make it a product worth rediscovering. Like saffron, it's amongst the most labour-intensive crops in the world, taking about 18 months of care from the point of pollination to the dried and cured finished spice.
When you smell and you touch the vanilla, if you have been in touch with other vanillas, most of the time you recognize directly the quality. Then again, it is a matter of what's behind our vanilla. It's not just the production of a spice, it is the origin of it. All that which comes behind, all that knowledge from thousands of years, I will try to appeal to you that this is not just vanilla. This is Mexican vanilla. This is the vanilla the world fell in love with.
And that seems to be the point. The craft of vanilla production is so important to the Totonac way of life, its loss would mean the demise of an essential part of their heritage.
And it smells lovely.
Huele.
So how do the new vanilla enthusiasts get the word out? To find out, I'm on my way to one of the largest cities in the world.
So I've left very early this morning with the indefatigable Don José at the wheel. Todo bien, Don José?
Todo bien.
Good. Everything is good. And that's great because we've got a very long journey ahead of us. 6 to 8 hours to get to Mexico City, and it's a long way from here.
"22 million people live, work and eat in and around Mexico City. And in one of its top restaurants, someone is trying to excite the taste buds of some of its more discerning citizens, with a little help from vanilla, of course. Gerardo Vasquez, the chef of this restaurant, is renowned for reintroducing Mexicans to the ingredients that Mexico gave to the world.
I'm starving already, just standing here. I just want to try everything. But what I need to ask you about
is vanilla.
We have lost our touch with the traditional ingredients. The vanilla always has been expensive.
So it was more
It's so expensive.
valuable to people in Mexico to sell it rather than really to eat it.
Yes, of course. It became so popular in Europe, in the States, in all over the world, and it became so precious.
It's
It
a
was
terrible
a-
thing to admit.
yes.
Here I am trying to discover everything about vanilla, and I have to confess to you, I hate it.
If you go out there, I will send you something,
Okay.
and I hope you like.
The taste that most of us associate with vanilla may be little more than a sweet spice. But vanilla has a very complicated flavour, and Gerardo uses it in both sweet and savoury dishes. Oh, that smells amazing.
This is veal.
Veal. Now that, you can't tell me vanilla's in there.
Yes, of course, it has a lot.
A lot?
A lot. All the tiny black
Yeah?
points.
It's vanilla.
It's vanilla.
But it's so delicious. Gerardo may be making strides in cosmopolitan Mexico City, but it'll take more than a few a la carte recipes to create a whole new demand for real Totonac vanilla. Hola, the kitchen. Hola, Marta está aquí.
Buenos días, ¿sí?
Marta.
Pásale.
Hola. Buenos días. Soy estudiante de vainilla.
Pues nosotros estamos trabajando la vainilla. ¿Qué te parece si nos ayudas a trabajar?
Put me to work. Put me to work. Okay. Here, in another very different kind of kitchen, is a group of Totonac women who are part of a movement keeping the traditional uses of ingredients like vanilla alive. They call themselves Women in Smoke, and their leader, Marta, is determined to make sure these cooking skills and recipes get passed on to a new generation.
Por eso a las mujeres del Totonacapan les dicen las mujeres de humo.
Okay, so
Ah,
now the vanilla. So you toast the vanilla as well?
Sí, sí se tienen que tostar.
These toasted cocoa beans and vanilla pods are the key ingredients for probably the most historically significant drink in Mexico. The
Vamos a hacer chocolate de vainilla.
Like the Aztecs gave to Cortez. It's the drink that Cortez first drank with Montezuma, the drink that sealed the fate of Mexico 500 years ago. It was a sweet taste for Cortez, but a bitter moment for Mexico. Within 3 years, Montezuma was dead and Spain had effectively conquered the country. There's the vanilla going in.
Ya se cansó. Ya, sí. Más movidita.
That's what? Oh, you need to wiggle.
Sí, sí, sí.
You're a slave driver.
Las dos, acá y allá.
I love Totonac cooking. You're not supposed to laugh at me, I'm trying.
Le saca la mantequita así. Cuando la gente viene y come, es lo que se lleva realmente la esencia de las mujeres del Totonacapan. Así, así. Fíjate. Decimos nosotros aquí que cocinamos con las manos y el alma. Despacito. Otra.
So, the hot chocolate is ready. It smells incredible.
It doesn't smell like the hot chocolate you and I know. It smells like basically a whole bar has been melted into this cup. And it just turns up into a little cup of heaven. Thank you. Totonac hospitality. Here's to it.
I'm finishing my journey with the people who know this spice better than anyone. The people who were the original cultivators of a bean that was to become known throughout the world. It's a unique product with a culture and history as rich and unusual as its taste.
There are many here in Mexico who would love to see the production of vanilla return to its years of former glory. There's Gerardo the chef, the new generation of traders and producers, but most importantly, it's the Totonac people, the original vanilla people. They're farmers and people like Marta who believe that keeping the Totonac culture alive could ensure a future for Mexican vanilla. And who knows, maybe one day we'll be able to walk around our own supermarkets, pick out a vanilla bean that says on its label proudly, produce of Mexico.